let me explain what test blind and test optional means to a real homeschool parent and real homeschool student. The colleges now are talking more and more about how difficult it is to get testing done. And so more and more colleges are becoming test optional and test blind. And I figured I really need to explain what both mean. So test optional means it's an option. You don't need a test in order to get in. So the SAT test or ACT test would be optional for people who apply. You still have to meet the other admission criteria though. And can you prove that without a test? You want to think that part through. Test blind means you cannot send test scores. They will not look at test scores from the ACT company or the SAT company. These tests are only accepted at those schools when it's requested by the college specifically. But that's not the whole story. There's more details about test blind and test optional that you need to know. Because with test optional, it means you don't need to submit a test, right? But there's a problem with that because test optional doesn't mean that they're going to give everyone admission. And it doesn't mean that your child is going to be qualified unless you can prove it. And it doesn't mean that they're going to give scholarships to you or anyone else. And how can you make sure that college is affordable if they don't give you scholarships? So that's kind of concerning. And test blind means you cannot submit a test score. Even if your child has a perfect score on the SAT or the ACT, they still won't accept the test scores from the SAT company or the ACT company. So test blind doesn't mean you're certain of admission. It doesn't mean that if you do meet their admission criteria that you will get in. And if they have a lot of applicants, they are going to have to reject people anyway. So test policies may help everyone in the long run, though. As these policies change, what I'm hoping is going to happen is that universities will once again invest in enough personnel so that they can do a holistic assessment of students. Colleges used to have much more of a holistic assessment. They would look at the whole person, their volunteer work, their after-school activities, their grades, everything was considered, not just their GPA and test score. So that's good if they become more holistic, right? But I do think that tests are going to be one piece of their analysis. So let me give you an example from the college that's in the news, University of California system. They just wrote their policy saying that they're test optional. But I read all the details and there's some things that you need to know because while they are test optional, students are only guaranteed admission if they live in the state based on being in the top 8th percentile on the SAT or ACT. So if you want guaranteed admission, you still have to take those tests. And what's more, it's very clear that while you may not need it to get in, the SAT and ACT scores are routinely increase the chance of students' scholarships and getting more financial aid. And also having those test scores can make sure that your child can place out of remedial or introductory courses. If they get a middle score or higher on the SAT or ACT, they probably won't have to take remedial English or remedial math, and that can speed up their time in college. So here's my advice in a nutshell. If your child can score well on tests, then do provide test scores at test optional colleges. If your child scores above average on tests, just above average, then do include their SAT or ACT test scores on your homeschool transcript because that's a way for them to see their test scores. Even if they don't get it from the colleges, they'll get it from you, the high school. And because of the current pandemic and not knowing for certain when our school is going to be open, how am I ever going to take those tests again? One of the best things that you can do is when schools are open, do try to take either the SAT or the ACT test as soon as your child can safely do so, so that If you're applying to a school that does require tests, you're going to have what they need. You'll have it well in advance. You'll be ready no matter what happens. Even if school's closed down again, it's like, oh, Pasha, I've already gotten that taken care of. And that can go a long way in helping you feel calm and confident, knowing that your student is going to get the scholarships they deserve, and the schools will get the information they need to place your child into the right level of classes. So I hope that helps explain test optional and test blind. Take care.